How often do you let your inner voice tell you a negative story without seeking clarity from another person's point of view? Well, if you want to know why this self-talk is so negative and you feel like it's time, to rewrite your inner story to be a happier and more positive person, then you need to watch this video, because today let's talk about how to stop being so negative all the time. If you're new to my channel, I'm Sue Blackhurst, and I've been writing and delivering psychology-based training programs for over 24 years. So if you're fascinated by human behaviour and want to learn a bit more about why people do what they do, subscribe to my channel now, as my next video just might be all about you. And I'm very excited at the moment because I'm finally in Clubhouse. My long-awaited invite arrived. Now, if you're already in, do make contact. And if you're wondering what on earth I'm talking about, well, it's a new social media platform and it's causing quite a bit of a stir online, so do check it out. If you enjoy my videos and you want to find out a bit more about who I am and what I do, take a look at my website. The name is there and the link is in the description box below. Okay, go with me with this and imagine the scene, because you've got a married couple and they're going out to this beautiful restaurant to have this rare and special evening out together, if only we could at the moment. The wife's been looking forward to the night for so long that she's had her hair done and bought a new dress, specially for the occasion. So there they both are, sitting at the restaurant, sat at the table, and they're both looking over the menu. She looks up at her husband, who's been working long hours and hardly been at home recently, and she tells him how wonderful it feels to finally have some quality time together. But with a cold face and not even making eye contact with his wife, the husband, looking down at the menu, says they better not have a starter as it's really expensive, which is not the answer she was either looking or hoping for. Well, now looking for the cheapest main course on the menu, her heart is sinking and the process of writing her narrative story begins. Her first emotion is sadness because he doesn't love her, and she tells herself that he's not even commented on her hair or her dress, so he no longer finds her attractive or feels that she's worth, the starter in the restaurant. This then leads to anger and the thought that he must be spending money on another woman, which now leaves her heartbroken, working out in her mind how she's going to cope after the divorce. So here they both are, and they haven't even ordered the meal, and the wife is already working out how to divide assets and who's going to live in the house when they eventually separate. This may sound a little extreme and more like the events in a 30-minute TV drama, but I'm pretty sure that most people will, at some stage in their lives, have written their own narrative story, believing it to be true. And it's this belief that can be so strong that we're prepared to walk away from friendships and relationships, instead of challenging our own perceptions with the potential to find out whether our view of a situation has been severely misguided. So let's go back to our romantic meal out, because what should she do? Should she walk out? Should she sit there in silence for the rest of the night? Or maybe she ought to challenge her interpretation of the conversation. Well, believing that her narrative is the only one to consider, and with all this built-up emotion, she snaps at him, asking why he's been so selfish, saying that they may as well just go home now, as he never thinks of her and he's ruined the evening by being so miserable. So let's take a look at the other side and the husband's narrative. Well, it turns out that his biggest customer has just gone bust, owing him the money that he desperately needed to keep the already struggling business afloat. So he's not only unsure about their future financial security, he feels guilty spending money in an expensive restaurant, knowing that his long-serving and loyal staff are soon to be out of work. So with the fear of losing the business completely, his mind is focused on looking after and protecting the family that he loves dearly. The stories we tell ourselves are incredibly powerful, and just like any story, they have a setting, they have characters, and they have a plot. But what makes them different is that we write them based upon how we interpret actual events from our own perception. We dismiss any of the possible meaning or point of view that could be held by anybody else. Our narrative is simply the way that we see events happening and how we connect those individual actions and words to create a story. And the thing is, as we have personally written the narrative, why on earth wouldn't it be true? What we often fail to do is to see each action or conversation in isolation, because our minds start to work overtime because they want to make sense of what is happening around us, and we need to rationalise all the things that we're experiencing. So let's say you're at home and your partner should have been back an hour ago from work. You call them and there's no answer. Well, anyone who has no vested interest in creating the narrative will simply say that they've been held up in a meeting or they're in traffic and they're on another call. But when those actions and events are directly connected to us, meaning that we are part of the story, we begin to write our own narrative, meaning that they've either been in an accident or there was somebody that they shouldn't be with. In other words, we rely on narratives to fill in the blanks when we don't have enough information to provide all the facts. But the narratives we create reflect not only on who we are, but also the world around us and where we see our position and place within it. Our personal narratives are influenced by the culture we grew up in and the attitudes, values and beliefs instilled in us from childhood, and our personal inclination to assign either positive or negative meaning to situations and events in our lives. Negative thoughts can be overwhelming because once you start seeing the worst case scenario, they will consume your day. They'll stop you sleeping at night and they actually make it difficult to focus on anything else. Because this ongoing dialogue inside your head can start after the slightest comment or look from another person. And the danger lies when there is little or no distinction between what is actual and what is perceived, leaving you to lose sight of all the positive things that are around you. So before I carry on, I want to just say, why not download my free book on how to reframe self-critical thoughts? Because I've received some incredible feedback from people who have told me how they're approaching life in a totally different way. And it's not only them, but the people around them who are feeling all the benefits. So the link is in the description box below. Have a little look, and before the end of the video, give it a download. The narrative we build for our lives determines how we think and feel, because if your go-to narrative is that everyone else is out to get you, or that every action or comment that someone else makes is done with intent to hurt you, and that every time your partner goes quiet, they don't love you, you're setting the stage for a life of negativity, hurt and disappointment. Try to assume an innocent until proven guilty attitude, because very few people actually go out to intentionally hurt others. So remind yourself that what others say or do isn't always about you. If in doubt, seek clarity on the story you're telling yourself to get a more accurate picture. Your narrative is powerful and it can either poison your relationships or it can fill your life with positivity and love. So whatever you see or hear, you are your own scriptwriter. So take time to look at all the possible scenarios and be mindful of how you write it. We all use narratives on a daily basis to make sense of our partners, our parents or our children's actions, because if they seem distracted over dinner, for example, we can either assume that they're having a bad day and they have something bothering them, or we can assume that they're in a bad mood and being awkward and they're just simply being bad-tempered. And the only way to avoid conflict and prevent misunderstandings is to clarify your narrative with all the characters that play a part in your story. So whenever you realise that you're in a situation and your mind begins to get creative, stop and ask yourself, what is the story you are creating? Question whether it's based on the same facts that everybody else can see. Think about it this way. The view that someone sees looking out of a window is going to be very different to the view that other people see when looking into that same window. So answering the question, what did the place look like, is going to create conflict unless we stop and see things from the other person's perspective. And through a calm discussion, the best thing that you can do is always write a joint narrative. If you haven't already downloaded my free book, now is the time to do it, because learning how to reframe self-critical thoughts will help you to not only find happiness, but also an element of calm in your life. Just go to the link, you'll find it in the description box below. If you have any questions at all, you can ask me in the comment section or email me at sue@sueblackhurst.com. Don't forget to like and share this video if you can. Do take care, everybody, and I will see you next time.